Hi, my name is James Adam Tucker, and for the past 35 years, I've been an actor, director, and editor right here in Hollywood. So today what I want to start is a new series of videos, more focusing on acting. I want to give honest advice for aspiring actors. So that's going to be the topic of this series. I've got a lot to talk about this since I've been an actor for a very long time, and a lot of this I learned over the years. When I first started, I read a lot of books, and I recommend that you do that too. There are a lot of great acting books, and you can get them for really cheap nowadays on Amazon. You can buy a used book, get it really cheap, and there is a lot of information that you can get from reading these books. And that's how I built up all my knowledge on acting. I did study acting in college, and I studied acting a lot after college with professional teachers or people who are in the business of teaching you how to be a better actor, coaches, acting instructors, and that's what I really want to focus on today. The very first thing that I tell all people who come to me and say, I want to be an actor, how do I get into the business? Even before I tell them, about headshots, resumes, all that kind of stuff, I tell them they need to get professional acting training. And that can be anywhere. You can start at community colleges. You can start at independent classes that are in your town. One of the first things I recommend, though, is finding a reputable teacher. If you're in a small town somewhere, you want to do your research. You want to talk to other students who have went to these classes, who may have gained some knowledge from these different teachers. And one thing I want to say right up front before I forget, you want to sample different teachers. You want to find out, and that's where the reading comes in. You want to find out about different acting techniques. You want to learn all that stuff that you can on your own so that you can work with a teacher who teaches in the techniques that you may feel comfortable with, techniques that say something to you. So find out about the techniques, learn about the techniques. I'm not going to get into those here. I'm just talking about the basics of what you need as a new actor. And the first thing that I say is, again, invest in professional training as an actor. I want to give out these tips. I made myself a little list right here about professional training as an actor and some of the things that you need to be aware of and you need to do in the class. One of the first things that I tell actors is once you start taking the class, you decide on what teacher you want to work with. And again, you're going to work with multiple teachers over your career. I don't want you to get hooked to a teacher. I have a lot of acting friends, and over the years I've met some who are stuck on one particular teacher and that particular teacher's technique. You want to have a sample of teachers to find a technique that works for you. And that's the key too. Once you discover a technique or a method that works for you, you want to make it your own. You want to find out what bits and pieces of this technique that this particular teacher gave you that works for you. And you're gonna, over the years, you'll build your own technique as an actor, and these will be the tools that you'll use to give a believable performance. So one of the first things I want to talk about is being open and exposed. Acting is a profession, it's a job that they want you to show your emotions. So when you go into class, you're going to have to learn how to break that wall down that we all naturally have, where we protect ourselves, where we protect who we really are. I always tell people that, there's two of me. There's one that I show to the world, and then there's the one that's on the inside. In acting, it's a great feeling, and it's a great skill to have to be able to release that hidden side of you when it fits the role. That's when you have a role that speaks to who you really are, and you can release those things you may not normally say or do in your normal life. You're able to release that in acting. Those are the best roles, that when I'm cast in a role like that and I could say I can be my inner self, that's when I can do my best performances. There are actors out there that can do any type of character, can do any type of role. Some of the top actors, if you'll name some, you'll know some that'll come right to mind. But you'll notice that a lot of actors always play the same type of character, because the bottom line is nowadays in casting, especially when you're starting out, when they see you, they want to say, oh, he's a mailman, oh, he's a postman, oh, he's a detective, oh, he's a lawyer. or he's a drug addict, or he's an alcoholic. As soon as they see you, they want to see that type of character. And that's how most casting is done. When they look at your picture and resume, they say, oh, is he believable as this? Or is he believable as that? But as you move forward in your acting training, you'll realize that what characters you're called in for a lot, and those are the characters you want to embrace. If you become successful, then you will get into the position where you can play different kind of roles. You can play a drug addict, then you can play the lawyer, then you can play the cop. But in the beginning, you're going to be cast in roles that the casting director and the director or the producers, oh, he fits that role, or she looks like a teacher, or she looks like a dentist, or she looks like a politician. So you want to embrace that at the beginning. Definitely you want to embrace the character type that people see you as, because that's going to get you through the door. Another thing about tip for aspiring actors is active listening. That's another thing that new actors don't do, or they don't realize how important it is. When you're in a scene and you have some dialogue and you're with a scene partner and they have dialogue, you want to really listen to what they're saying. Sometimes in life, even I do this myself in real life, sometimes you want to get out your point of view of what you're saying, and you're not listening real closely to the person that's talking to you. So you want to always make sure you're actively listening, especially in a scene, because when you're doing a scene and you have a scene partner, even in the audition situations, if you're doing a self-tape, when your off-camera reader is talking to you, you want to really listen to what they're saying. And a lot of times when we as acting instructors or actors, and I'm giving you this information, there's not something that you're going to consciously do. You don't want to overdo it where you're making too many facial expressions, or you're listening and you're just exaggerating your facial expressions. You just want to really listen. If you watch television and you look at some really good actors in good scenes, you see that they are listening to the person who's talking to them. And then that dictates their response of how they respond. So active listening, that's something you can look up online also. Active listening is a big, important part of the beginning of your acting training. When you come to class, I taught classes in the past, and the thing that really would get to me sometimes when students would not come prepared. So you're paying for these classes. If the teacher gives you a scene and says, work on this scene so that you can do it next week in class, set aside some time and work on the scene. Become familiar with it. If they tell you they want you to be off book, then come prepared as much as possible to be off book. If they tell you you can hold the sides in your hand, that's something you need to clarify with the teacher, how they teach their classes. Sometimes I would have people come to class and I could tell this was the only time they looked at the scene, because they had no idea what the scene was about or what their dialogue was about. They're stumbling over words. You need to come to class prepared. You need to take it seriously. If you want to become a professional actor, this is where you make mistakes. This is where you, as I said earlier, you're open and exposed. This is in the classroom is where you make these mistakes. The next is taking risk. You don't want to play each scene safe. You want to play some scenes big, and hopefully the teacher may tell you, oh, that's too big. Or you want to play some scenes subtle. Hopefully they'll tell you that's too subtle. You want to be able to have a range when you're delivering a scene. When I work on scenes, sometimes I purposely do the scene too big. Sometimes I do the scene too small. I have a tendency of leaning towards the too big side when I'm doing auditions. I just have an audition in my mind right now that I was perfect for, that I think now I might have done it a little too big. So you need to work, and I've been doing this for 35 years, and you can't guess what the casting person wants, but you can learn over time by doing scenes, this scene should be subtle. There's a term that I hate that you hear a lot, throw it away. It means say your dialogue without so much intention. If you have a small part and it's, you walk in and you say, Mr. Johnson, here's your mail. You're not going to go in and exaggerate that to drag it out so you can get more screen time. And when the casting director or director says to you, just throw it away, they mean just say it like you would in real life. Oh, here's your mail, sir. Simple, straight to the point. You're not adding any inflection or any hidden meaning inside the words. Once you get a real role and you have a bunch of dialogue, then you'll have those scenes, you'll have those words that, you can add that subtle sarcasm. You can add that little extra thing in there. one time years ago, I was auditioning for a scene. I actually had a callback, and I was, what was it? This was years ago, 90210, and I still remember it to this day. And it's helped me in the past. I was in the scene. I was doing the scene in front of the director and two of the producers. And it was a small scene, and so I decided to take a risk with the scene, which turned out to be good. I got the part, but I took a risk where I made the scene more important than they wanted it. You know, I gave it some attitude where I didn't like this guy we were spying on. We were in a van spying on one of the main characters. And so I gave it some attitude, you know, where I wish this guy, I can't wait to take this guy down because this guy is really getting on my nerves. And so they wanted me to, again, the term I said before, throw it away. Don't invest. They told me if they said that, now that was good. The director said that was good, but I'd have to rewrite the whole scene because I made my character so important that I overtook the storyline of the two people being bugged and talking to each other. So I just brought it down, you know, I just brought it all the way down. And I was able to do that instantly because I listened to what the director said, and I was able to throw out my choice instantly and just bring it down to make it something like, we got to get this guy and bring him in. You know, so I just made it simple. I just, as they say in the casting business, throw it away. I just threw it away because a lot of times when you're going for smaller roles, they don't want your role to seem more important, because if you think of it from a viewer's point of view, the viewer might start thinking, hey, why did that detective get so upset? You know, who is he? How is he important to the story? And you don't want to lead your audience down a line where, you know, the detective is not as important, you know, as the scene that they're watching, you know, in the story within the story. As the scene I'm spying on, we were spying on these two guys, listening to them as they talk to each other. And so they didn't want my little bit to seem more important. But here's a little side note on that. That actually did help me because after I shot, I was like 2 days later, I got a call from my agent saying that they want me to come back and do another scene. So just that little bit of energy where I took a risk and I did the scene bigger than it was written. And that kept me in their mind. So when they came up with this other scene that they wanted, they called me right back in. So I got a 2-day shoot out of what was supposed to be just a small little under 5 role. But again, taking those risks are what you do in class. That's where you learn. That's where you learn how to take those risks and to think about those risks and to think about ways to do a scene different. You don't just want to do everything monotone. You don't want to do everything over the top. You don't want to do everything just on the safe. You want to learn to take those risks. And sometimes the casting director may say, that was good, bring it down. You know, hopefully if you're in a on-camera live audition, which we don't have that much anymore, unfortunately. That's one of the reasons I like in-person auditions, because the casting director can give you that instant feedback. But let me focus again back on our list for honest advice for aspiring actors. Embrace feedback. Okay, that's something you're going to have to learn too. You've come up with your ideas on how you want to do the character, how you want to portray this character. You need to get into the mindset of being able to throw away your ideas and embrace ideas that other people may have, because you're going to get that from directors. You're going to get that from casting directors, and you don't want to argue with a casting director. Oh no, this is the way that I see it. This character would do this. You know, as a director, I've had actors argue with me on the set about how a character is supposed to deliver lines in a scene that I wrote. But I don't want. That was a funny situation. It popped into my mind, but I don't want to get into that now. I'll save that for another day. But you don't want to get into those situations where you're so invested in your choices that no matter what anyone says, that's the way it has to be done. You know, okay, maybe if you're an A-list actor and, you know, you've got clout, you're carrying this picture, then you can speak up. You know, I still would say, don't be a jerk. You know, you and the director step aside and talk about it. But in those situations, you can speak up. But you're a starting actor, you know, a day player, you're on the set, you're supposed to do these under 5 lines. You don't want to get in there and start telling the director, oh, my character wouldn't say this. You know, I see him this way, and he's done this, and she's done this, and da-da-da-da-da-da. Embrace feedback. That's another thing you need to learn in class. Hopefully, you're taking a scene study class, or you're taking some type of workshop class. You may be taking an audition class. There's so many different, they're on-camera technique classes. So there's so many different classes that can be available depending upon where you live in the country. Again, I want to say this again, make sure you do your research about your teacher. There are a lot of people out there that are teaching acting classes who don't have, a background in it. They're just trying to find a way to make money. And you don't want to be caught up in some of those classes. And there are unethical teachers who do have a lot of experience. So recently in the news, a few years in the news, there was an A-list actor who was teaching classes. And he was teaching them for a bad reason, and he happened to have all female students. But I won't get into that. But be careful about who you're taking classes with and research their background. We have the beautiful internet now. It's good and bad, but you can look up people's background. You can look up reviews on Yelp, on so many sites you can look up. Google has reviews. You can look up businesses on the Better Business Bureau if they're still effective anymore. But there's a lot of ways to do your research on businesses and people teaching and taking classes. I say one of the best ways, though, is if you get a referral from someone who's taken the class, or you try to find out people who are currently in the class. Some classes even give you the ability to audit the class. Come down for one day and stay for an hour and see what they do. Sit in the background, and listen and see if this is something you want to be involved with. So again, embrace feedback. You'll get feedback from the teacher. You may get feedback from your fellow students. Sometimes you may get unwanted feedback from fellow students. You'll have students trying to direct you. All that is good stuff to learn in class because you have that stuff on the set. Over the years, I've had actors trying to tell me how they want me to deliver my dialogue. Not actors who are creating the project, actors who are in the scene with me. So I always shy away from unnecessary turmoil. I'll just nod and smile. So and then do the scene my way. Now, if the director asks me, which in the past, again, like a little story I told you there earlier, the director asked me to make this specific choice. You make it. You make that pivot. You make that change. You incorporate their ideas into yours. You don't throw out all your ideas, but you incorporate what they ask you to do, or the casting director, you incorporate that and give it to them the way they want it. That's versatility. That's being able to be directed. And a lot of times the casting directors are looking at actors to see if they are directable, because directors tell them, I don't want actors coming to me who I have to argue with, because they see it too. They see it all the time. I want people who will take direction, willing to take direction. Let's see. The next, be present. Put away your cell phone. You're there to learn. Even when you're watching other actors perform, most of the time in the classes, 2 or 3 actors will get up and do a scene. And you, as the audience member, watch and see what you can learn from that. In your mind, thinking about how I would do it, how I would take the comments from the teacher. Don't just sit in the back and get on your phone. Pay attention, be present, suck in all the knowledge you can get from the acting class while you're there. Be patient, learn to wait. Like I said, you're there. You're not going to be in every scene. You're going to wait. You have to have patience because a lot of acting is sitting around. A lot of acting is sitting around. Many times I've come to the set 6 a.m. and if schedules get changed, if people don't schedule appropriately, you'll wait maybe 8, 9 hours before you do your scene that may only take 1 hour to do. Acting takes a lot of patience. I've even heard a lot of name actors who have sometimes stopped acting, people who have started and then stopped acting because they didn't want to do all that waiting and sitting around. A lot of acting on the set is sitting around waiting for your turn to get up there and do what you came to do. Support your classmates. That's another big one. You want to, the class is supposed to be a safe environment. You're not there to make fun of people or laugh at people or tease people. This is not high school again. So we want to avoid all of that. If every actor can come to classes with a positive attitude, a supportive attitude of other actors, this is a place where you practice. You're there to, like I said, take risk. You're there to try things that you won't normally try on the set. You're there to learn. And learning means you're going to take risks. You're going to make mistakes. And this is where you make your mistakes. So be supportive of your classmates. It's supposed to be a positive environment, and that's what we want it to be. Ask questions. The next one is ask questions. Ask questions of the teacher. Ask questions of the fellow students. You may see a standout student who is really talented, who's maybe taken a lot of classes. If they're willing to talk to them. Find out what they can do. Can they give you any advice? You want to take all the advice that you can get. You want to suck in every bit of knowledge from every class. Don't just sit there and be silent and don't participate. You want to participate. If the teacher asks for a volunteer, volunteer. This is where you're going to learn. Put yourself in situations where you may feel uncomfortable. You may get into some improvised scenes where you're not comfortable. Try it out. They may give you lessons or techniques that they want to give to you, and you're like, does this have anything to do with acting? If the class comes highly recommended, play along, participate, learn everything that you can learn while you're there. And again, finally, acting classes are a place where you're going to have fun. You've decided that I want to be an actor. I want to learn. And like I said, this is my top #1 advice that I give to new actors. Take these professional classes. And when you're there, you want to have fun. You want to be in a good mood. I've had classes where I've been teaching or classes that I was a participant in, and actors come with attitudes. They don't really want to be there. They just want to, oh, why can't I just get a leading role in the starring movie? All unbelievable, unrealistic stuff. Why do I have to take classes? I always tell them, think of sports. I always give this analogy. Think of sports. Some of the greatest athletes continue to practice and rehearse. They're in the pros and they continue to practice and rehearse their skills. Musicians, they practice and rehearse their skills. Acting should be taken seriously. You need to practice and rehearse your skills. That's one of the reasons I'm doing these YouTube videos, because this is a great way for me to practice my skill of speaking to you, speaking professionally to you, and being open and honest. If you're in a scene, you want to be believable. And when I'm talking to you on these videos, one of the reasons I came up with this idea of unedited is because I wanted to be in a situation where I can talk as long as I want and tell you what I know, talk about a specific subject and just give out my information. Hopefully some of it will be useful, but that it also benefits me as an actor to put myself in a situation where I need to continue to impart information that I think is helpful. And as I'm delivering it, of course I'm believable because I'm talking about stuff that I know. And those same skills, some of the greatest actors have that talent where they can take words that were written for them and make them sound like they're words that they're just thinking of right here on the spot. So there's so many ways that acting classes can help you. If you're a little bit shy, it will help open you up. It will let you find your strong points, let you find your weaknesses, find out what things you need to work on. Do I need to work on audition skills? Do I need to work on scene study? Do I need to work on my active listening? So I'm going to put all this information down in the comments below area, so you can look at that. You can read it on your own. But again, I'd like to request people to subscribe to my channel. I was supposed to do that earlier. This is something that I need to get used to doing up front, asking you guys to subscribe. So I'm going to practice that in my next video. But again, just a quick recap. This is honest advice for aspiring actors, things they don't tell you. And my very first thing that I want to make sure that, if you have friends who want to be actors, make sure you tell them they need training. There's so many people that think, I did a high school play, so now I want to be an actor. You're going to need the training because you want to be able to make a career out of it if that's something you choose. So if you think of any career, any profession, people get professional training and they take it seriously. And that's what you need to do with your acting. Again, there's a lot of books out there. Some of these books are dated, but there are great information in some of these acting books. And again, you can get those on Amazon in the used section. I recommend that because the books are much cheaper. The knowledge is the same, the skills are the same. What you need to do as an actor, all that information is the same. If you want to know some of the titles of books that I have read in the past when I first started acting, look in the area below and get my email address and shoot me an email. I love to answer questions. I'm still gathering some questions from people, and I answer them by email. But once I start getting a consistent flow of questions, I'll do a couple of Q&A videos. I love to do those also. And one day down the line, I'm going to do some live videos where I answer your questions live to tape, as they say. I know YouTube has a live feature, and I may even set up some calls in advance where I call you back. We schedule a call, and I call you back, and I talk to you live, and we record it here to share with our YouTube community. But that's it for this one, and thank you for listening, and join me on the next one.